who had been talking to me about the nature of reality and such. I wouldn't have then gotten a better education if I hadn't gone to school being interdependent. My personality wouldn't have the quality. My social skills would have been my mother and my father and other things. I had to be interdependent with those. Then finally, my job, money, I need interdependence. And finally, actually, the interesting one is love. You need people in your life to have love or compassion or joy. So we are emotionally, our sense of self is a completely interdependent phenomena. And because it is interdependent, open, not self-existent, we can have all of those feelings. Of course, if we have delusions, we can have problems in those areas. But if we have a virtuous heart, we can have happiness and joy and such like that. Anyway, so the thing is, our sense of self is also interdependent. And empty of any self-existence. But you do it through a relative perspective. My sense of self is totally a interdependent phenomena. Put some new interdependence in there, something can change, put in a good thing, so maybe I get happier, put in a trauma, maybe I end up with needing to go to a psychiatrist or psychologist, whatever. My personality, my sense of self is interdependent. It's not self-existent. Okay, anyway, so we're talking about the side of the hand that is knowing. If that side of the hand appreciates things are impermanent, which is a precursor to appreciating that everything is interdependent, which is a precursor to understanding that everything is open, empty of any self-existence. Those wisdoms, and then meditation, that's really important because that's control, allows you to go to a subtle level to be clear light consciousness. And we use the analogy of being open like the space of the sky in our meditation to go and help us get some familiarity with it. So, I don't know, when we die or whatever, we might have a chance to go to the clear light with some consciousness. Okay, so in the sadhana, we did Om Sobo Ashudo Sarva Dharma Sobo Ashudo Hum. Everything becomes empty. We are open space in the sky. Then, as I was saying, for me, I'm in Bodh Gaya. And I try to make it as real as I can for me because that's affecting my body. I'm in a holy place. It's affecting my mind. Maybe there's Buddhas and Bodhisattvas there. If you've not had that opportunity, maybe you've been in a place where Lama Zopa and Dalai Lama were. Maybe they're in a garden or something. So you put yourself there and you let yourself really feel that those beings are around because you're affecting yourself. You're accumulating karma. Then in that, then you put the lion and the throne and the lotus and the moon cushion, like I described earlier in the earlier class. Okay, then on top of that, my consciousness takes form. Now, when you come from clear light, I mean, you were shifting over to a relative perspective on the nature of reality. Forms were arising, but you were sort of still looking at it from the formless realm, from just consciousness without form realm. Then you allow yourself to take a form, which is the syllable hum or the syllable mem, as whatever particular practice you want to do. And in that, then, you are nothing but the nature of benefit. Your personal liberation is your dharmakaya. Your bodhicitta, or just the benefit for others, is any form you create out of that dharmakaya. So it's really important. It's like your insurance policy that your tantric practice, your Buddhist practice goes in the right direction, that any form I create is only of the nature of benefit for all sentient beings. And so you rest in that. That's the Sambhogakaya. It's your subtle form, and it's just pure syllable hum. Maybe it's blue syllable hum with sort of a golden color around it because it's going to become Maitreya Buddha. And you rest in that maybe for a little while, like just pure. May all sentient beings have happiness in the cause of happiness. May all sentient beings be free of suffering in the cause of suffering. And just rest in that. You're a syllable hum, and that's your nature. Then you carry on with the sadhana. Okay, so accomplishing the two purposes. So here we go. Sorry. We have from this syllable, light rays shine out in all 10 directions, making offerings to the exquisite beauty to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and then purifying the negative energy of all sentient beings, leading up to the state of enlightenment. Once these two purposes have been accomplished, the light dissolves back into my mind. So it's always called the two purposes. If you find any sadhana that refers to two purposes, those are the ones. Offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, purification of sentient beings, and the light always returns to you, so to give you a blessing. Okay. Maybe we have all heard of the word Pure Land. Okay, but I think it's interesting if you go over to Pure Land, but you have to think about what would that be psychologically? Because I know we're told like, okay, all sentient beings are the Buddha and all places are pure, but I'm in the wrong part of Chicago, and that's really difficult. I got fear, Okay, and I'm sorry if I pick on Chicago if any of you are from Chicago, but okay. So how do you do that? Okay, the example that I like to use is instead of a Pure Land, you make it a playing field, like let's just say a basketball court, just for the heck of it. Okay, you and all sentient beings are on the same team. You have a camaraderie because you're all in the same team. You're wearing the same colors. And what's the opposition? The opposition is the delusions. But what you do when you say all sentient beings are the Buddha Maitreya, and I and all sentient beings, are on the path to enlightenment, or we're in the Pure Land. Okay, psychologically, you have to say, okay, well, what's that mean? Well, okay, we're all in the same team and we're in the playground. It's the playground of enlightenment, and we're all playing the same game. We like to get enlightened. Some of the players are pretty good, some of the players aren't so good, but we all have Buddha nature. We're all in the same team, and you could say the goals we're trying to get are the goals of becoming more enlightened. Now, that's a sort of psychological version of Pure Land, all sentient beings are Buddhas and such. But it gives you a camaraderie with all the sentient beings, which I think is the objective of trying to see, I'm in a Pure Land and all sentient beings are Buddhas. The objective of that is that we all have a camaraderie with each other. An easy example is, let's say, you go to Europe, and you're wandering around in Italy and everybody's jabbering away in Italian, and suddenly you see another American. And immediately you go, hello, where are you from? Oh, you're from, Idaho. Oh, great. Which city? Oh, Boise, Idaho. Wow. Good. It's like a connection with those people. Okay. That's the sort of thing you want with all sentient beings, is that sort of feeling. And this is what Tantra is about. This is what visualization is about, that you have that sort of thing. So you set out light, made offerings to all the Buddhas. So think of Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa and all the other gurus. They all became happy. And they sent back a wave of happiness to you. And definitely you don't think just arbitrary Buddhas. Specifically think of the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa and Poche, all the other great Lamas that we have in our lives. And you send them. And even if they passed away, you can think of them as getting that beautiful offerings. And they send back a wave of happiness and joy and good energy to you. And all sentient beings, they all get turned into light energy. All the negativity is purified. We're all in the same team. We're all in the playground of the Buddhahood of enlightenment. And of course, then they all turn to light and absorb into you, as it says, and in an instant, you become Maitreya Buddha. Boom, like that. So that's, if you're familiar with Anuttara Yoga, that's death, bardo, rebirth. But in this particular case, we're the lower Tantra, so you could just say, coming from clear light, you could say Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. But in this case, it's not doing it using the death, bardo, rebirth. But the point is that still you came from your own clear light consciousness. You then manifested a pure form of compassion, just a syllable, and then you allowed yourself to become Maitreya Buddha, which is more manifest. Like then you have more abilities. You're more accessible by sentient beings. So instantly I become a Maitreya Buddha. I have a clear light body, golden color, with one face, two arms, and my hands are poised in my heart. It's your teaching mudra, the mudra of turning the wheel of the Dharma. In each hand, I hold the stem of a lotus. So the right is a wheel, the left is a vase. Next page, please. Okay, my black hair is pulled back and tied in a knot. That's sort of like, anyway, it's if we all had long hair. Touch, and my head is crowned with the stupa of enlightenment. It's like the beautiful statues that Lama Zopa had commissioned of Maitreya Buddha. Maybe you've seen them. I'm sure they're on the website of FPMT. My face is smiling, peaceful expression, and my body is adorned with the 80 qualities and the 32 marks of magnificence. Precious ornaments decorate my body. and I emanate an aura of 5-colored light, and I'm seated in a majestic position with my feet planted firmly on the ground, 3 syllables go on my body, Om Ma Hum, my crown, throat, and heart. Okay, so there's your visualization. Now, remember earlier in the class, I said that the big thing with this is you used to think that you were born in America and you have an American birth certificate. That's what you sort of believed in. That's your mundane sense of self. But someone came along and gave you a brand new piece of paper, or piece of paper saying, I'm so sorry, but you were actually born in Canada and you're a Canadian citizen and you have free health care. That's my joke, okay? Okay, but the point is that then you go, oh, and there's this shift of identity. You know, you might first say, well, you know, maybe, I don't know. Oh, no, there's my birth certificate. It said, I'm a Canadian. I can just cross the border, you know. I got my paper right here. You know, hey, look, I'm a Canadian. Like that. That's the emotion that you want when you think, I used to identify that I had a mom and dad that were in New Jersey and I was born and I went to those schools and this and that. That's your mundane identification. No, you came from Dharmakaya, or you came from your clear light consciousness. You came from your Buddha nature, which has always been pure in all those rebirths. But around it were all of these associations. Remember, that's this part of the hand, all the misunderstandings that you had, all of that was to say that basically held you back from becoming a more enlightened person because you believed in those identifications. Now you can say, no, I believe in my Dharmakaya. And I just have to go and really get much more familiar that I'm coming from that, I'm being born from that, and I'm Sambhogakaya, just pure nature of benefit. And that's a huge purification of karma. You know, if you talk about, you know, your mundane sense of self and the identifications you've had and the people you've loved and the people you hated and the things you've done and all of that stuff like that, that's all based on desires and aversions and attachments and stuff like that. But you know, you just sort of say, okay, I am nothing but pure. May all sentient beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and cause of suffering. You try to dwell in that. That purifies a humongous amounts of karma. Maybe it's not too strong at the beginning, but you spend 5 or 10 years on that sort of meditation, and you'll start to be less attached. Okay. Throw in the fact that you now are no longer coming from just being from New Jersey, but you're actually coming from Dharmakaya. You have a new place of identification, like being a Canadian instead of an American, just for example. I'm not trying to say it's bad to be an American. Okay. But the point. So you have this, okay, wow, you know, and then I have this. So now you're changing your karma massively. And that's the objective of Tantra, identification with deity. Just another thing, because I talked a lot about words. I used to be incredibly fluent in Tibetan. I could translate for Trichin Rinpoche, Lingam Rinpoche, Geshe Dorje, all these lamas. I could translate for them, no problem whatsoever, you know. And we have the word divine pride. And I don't know the meaning for a Tibetan, what that means exactly. I think the correct word for us in English is identification, that you identify. Because, for example, I'm very proud. I own a Google cell phone. I'm so proud. Or I'm proud because I'm from, you know, some particular place or something like that. It's a dualistic position. And in Tantra, you want non-duality. I don't know, maybe some, you know, other translator could go and argue with me about this, but I think that the correct word for me is identification. I identify with being Dharmakaya, open space of the sky. I identify that I am bodhicitta. I manifested as a syllable whom. I identify with that because it's not like I'm proud of that. That's an object. I am that identification. So I don't know that, again, there might be a reason for saying pride. I don't quite understand. I think better to say identity. But again, let's not get into a big philosophical debate about it. I'm just suggesting that's a better word. Okay, and then you become Maitreya Buddha. And again, you identify. And identifications are important. You know, like all you need to do is put on a uniform of something. Like maybe you put on the uniform of a doctor. You know, when you put the stethoscope around your neck, and let's see. Or maybe you're not a doctor, but you put on their clothes and you suddenly, you know, or maybe you put on the robes of the dresses of a nurse, or maybe a police person, or I don't know, military or something like that. There's, with that clothing, there's an identification, and identification has connotation. has facets. What's it mean to be a doctor? What's it mean to be a nurse? What's it mean to be a policeman? Okay, so when you become a Buddha, there are facets of what that means. And that's why if you study, for example, taking refuge, all the qualities of the Buddha's body, speech, and mind, and all the other things, that when you have that identification, I mean, yes, okay, we're not the Buddha, but the identification is a heck of a lot better than being, I don't know, from Connecticut. Okay, I'm just joking. But the point is that identifications are really important, and we are talking about tantric practice where we're trying to transform ourselves. So it is important to have those sorts of understandings and ideas. So at this particular point, we then have manifested as being Maitreya Buddha, and we have the various things about it. Again, you have to relax your sense of self to say it's okay. I did have previously another identification that I sort of took as being very real. It was my mundane identification. It's not so beneficial. It doesn't really benefit me the best it could. This identification is much more beneficial. Even though I'm not Maitreya Buddha, I'm getting closer to that because I'm seeing myself as Maitreya Buddha. Okay, so then you have that. Can we pull this down up on the screen, please? And in a little while, I'll let you guys have questions, okay? Then, from the blue hole in my heart. Okay, see, there's where it says blue whom, but you should have a golden light around it, okay? Much brilliant blue light radiates out to Tushita, invoking the wisdom and form of Maitreya, who comes back as light and melts into me, Jahum Bam Ho, become of one taste. Now, in this particular case, when you do that, I'm sure you're familiar with the story of Naropa and Chalopa. So Naropa had been with Chalopa for quite a few years, doing a lot of practice and stuff, being abused and those sorts of things, jumping off of cliffs, being, had his blood all drained out by leeches and things like that. Anyway, and so one day he came to the little hut of Chalopa to offer food. And when he came into the hut, he would normally do 3 prostrations. Well, beside Chalopa suddenly appeared the whole mandala of the Heruka Chakra, like in all its radiance. It's the power of Chalopa. And Naropa went like, whoa, that's beautiful. And here's this grimy old street person, Chalopa. How do you think these were Mahasiddhis? These were not, cleanly dressed in brocade. They were funky street people, but with high realization. And on the other side, a self-radiant mandala of the 64 deities of Heruka, like, wow. And Chalopa said, who do you want to do prostrations to? And Naropa said, oh, I see my guru every day and make prostration to him. Must be I have to do prostration to this mandala because it just appeared, that's his logic. So he did 3 prostrations to the mandala and it disappeared. And Naropa said, no, you blew it. Okay, why? Because I'm the source of that mandala. You're prostrating to a branch, not to the trunk. That I am this real thing. And there's some karma for that or whatever. I'm not sure all the details. So my point being is that when we talk about Maitreya Buddha, we should really talk about our gurus, and that we feel that when the light rays go out, you can say, okay, so you've just become Maitreya Buddha. You're golden color. You are for the nature of benefit. You are manifest for the benefit of sentient beings. You are bodhicitta manifest. Okay, so you have that identification. You're resting in it. Your body is hollow, floating in the middle of your chest is a moon cushion with the syllable, we'll talk about that in a second, the mantra's going around in the syllable Om. You do that, and then the light goes out. What you should feel is that light touches the mind of the Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa and whatever other gurus you have, Garchen Rinpoche, Dugul Khyentse Rinpoche, even gurus that have passed away, doesn't matter, because you have faith. If you've had a good experience with one of them, include them. That their mind is touched by those rays of light and they become aware, oh, Losang is meditating, John is meditating. And then they feel that they send back waves of supportive energy that absorbs into you. Okay. Now, in there you can include Maitreya Buddha. We've not met him or anything like that, but we can do that. And so then we feel that, okay, we've been fully supported the mind of my gurus and my mind of one. There's a Tibetan prayer that says, Pakoki Q Kandaki Loop, Koki Ngat Kandaki Sum, Koki Kandaki Tonyermechik, Chingi Lap. Okay. May your holy body and my body, may your holy speech and my speech, may your holy mind and my mind become one, become inseparable. That's one of the prayers. So you really try to feel that you do have this very deep connection with the Lamas. And why it's important to do the Lamas, because if you did then later on spend time with Lama Zopa, he'll pick up on it. And you have a very good connection with him. Or Dalai Lama. I remember there's a friend of mine named Mike Parrott. He lives in England. He's a bit of an eccentric character. Anyway, but he's been around a long time, like me. He's been around for these 45 years in Buddhism and stuff like that. And he spent a fair bit of time seeing the Dalai Lama off and on. Okay. And he has a lot of faith for the Dalai Lama. So one day the Dalai Lama came to England. I guess he's in Cambridge or Oxford or something like that. And they were doing a big public event and stuff like that. And then, so the Dalai Lama got in the car and the car started to pull away. And suddenly the Dalai Lama stopped the car, got out, walked over to Michael and gave him a hug. I mean, I can't think of a more of an emotional experience that could possibly happen. Like, wow. And okay, you could say, yeah, Dalai Lama knew Michael, but Michael obviously had a lot of good feelings about the Dalai Lama. And, let's say Dalai Lama was clairvoyant or omniscient, he picked up on it. He stopped the car, opens the door, gets out, walks over and gives Michael a hug. So that could happen to us. Like, actually, I have another story for you. This is sort of fun stuff. Come on. But hey, okay, so I went to India in 2010. It was the reunion, the 40-year reunion of us Dharamsala Wallets. Those of us that lived in India it had to be for 5 or 10 years to be able to be part of that group. And so there's all sorts, there's, Andy Weber and just all sorts of us that have been around 10, 15 years in Buddhism. And this is the 40-year reunion. And we came back to be with the Dalai Lama. They say, hey, we're your children. We were with you when we were 20 years old. And actually, the Dalai Lama was only 35 then. Like, when I got ordained, I was 20. He was 35. Lama Yeshe was 35 years old. We were all children, And so now Dalai Lama was, I guess, like 75, and we were all 50 something like, or 60. We're all in our 60 something. Anyway, 2010. Anyway, and so I took my wife, and she didn't. She hadn't been there when we were, but she was my wife, so she got to come. So anyway, I told her, I said, okay, you need to do the Dalai Lama's name mantra. And that comes up with the Maitreya thing that we're going to do in a few seconds. You have to do the Dalai Lama's name mantra from now until we go to India. So it's a whole year that she had to do it. So every day she'd do 200-300 of the mantra. It was Om Guru, Vajradara, Vakintras Marish, Sanadar, Samutra Shabadar, Sarvasiti. That was the mantra. That's the name mantra of the Dalai Lama. Okay, so the first day of the teachings, we had 2 days with the Dalai Lama in Dharamsala. Great. Okay, so we're all there. I was very lucky. I was one of the coordinators, so I got to sit up at the front with Gavin Kilty and I can't remember her names now, I'm getting too old. Anyway, so we're all there. We did the whole thing. Anyway, partway through the teaching, or I guess we had a break or something like that, the Dalai Lama sent somebody to the back of the room, and it was where my wife and a friend of one of our friends that came with us, they were at the very back of the room, of the audience room we were in with the Dalai Lama. There was 200 of us. Okay, so it's not like 10 people. It was 200 of us all in chairs. And the Dalai Lama sent someone back and said, hey, who are you two at the back? I sort of noticed you. So anyway, it was my wife. And so anyway, the attendant went back and then went back to the Dalai Lama to find Andy. Well, that's the first day. So it was sort of Raquel and it was Carmelita was the other lady. They were they called twin ladies. Oh, yes, Dalai Lama noticed us. Okay, so of course that's sort of fun. Then the second day, all the people at the back got to move to the front, and all the people at the front got to move to the back, so we could all be closer with the Dalai Lama. And he was being very friendly. Okay, so again, we had the talk and everything like that. And at the end, then, okay, photo time. And so my wife sort of, she was towards the front because she'd been at the back. So she walked up. She got close to the Dalai Lama. He grabbed her hand and pulled her over beside her. We have pictures of this. And he held her hand for the next 5 minutes, and talked with her very briefly, but, because there's 50 other people standing around the Dalai Lama waiting for their picture to be taken, a big group picture like that. And all I can say is that was because she did his mantra. She had a connection with him. So when you do, I send out light rays and invite, from the whom of my heart, light rays spread, invite all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they turn to me, Ja, Hum, Bum, Ho. When you do that, think particularly of Dalai Lama, Lingam Poche, Trijang Poche, or whoever your gurus are, Lama Zopa Poche, okay? This has importance, okay? And as we follow the lineage of Chalopa, it's got some effect on us. It's important. Anyway, so then you absorb them in, and you feel they have that connection. Now then we go to the mantra recitation. So if you can show the screen again, please. Okay. Now here, see, Lama Yeshe was actually very interesting. He did not give the long mantra to the Maitreya Buddha. I used to a long time ago memorize it. I haven't done it for a while, so I don't do it anymore. But the thing is, he gave the name mantra for Maitreya Buddha. And I mean, although it could have had Om Guru Vajradhara, that would be if it's a tantra. In this case, Om Maitre Sarvasiddhi Hum. It could be double Hum. So it depends on the mantra. But he gave the name mantra for Maitreya Buddha. And I think just because it was simple, the long mantra is it's almost 100 syllables. So I don't know if the students back then, this is way back in the early 80s, Lama Yeshe gave this teaching. Maybe they couldn't do it. So anyway, he gave this mantra, Om Maitre Sarvasiddhi Hum. And Om is, may my body be integrated. Ah is my speech. Maitre is like you Maitreya Buddha. Sarva is all. Siddhi is abilities. Hum is my mind. So you're literally saying Om Hum, my body, speech, and mind. Maitreya Buddha, please, give me all of your abilities. And instead of saying cities, I always think the word ability is better. So whatever ability you gain, whether it's your realization of reality, your love and compassion, or your clairvoyance, whatever it might be, that's ability. So that's city. Okay. Then at the center of the moon disk, the blue hum with golden light. So there, where I said you've been visualizing a blue hum, it has golden light. With the mantra on the periphery of the moon disk. This is you are Maitreya Buddha at the center of your chest, at the level of your heart. Floating in the middle is a white moon cushion. Okay, standing in the center is a blue hum, and around it, clockwise, is the mantra, Om Maitre Sarvasiddhi Hum, and that's all in golden light. Those should be all in gold, okay? And it's going clockwise and sort of proportionately positioned around the moon cushion. Okay, recite the mantra and feel much radiant light emerges from the syllable mantra moon in your body, pervading the 10 directions of the universe, touching all living beings. They all are purified for whatever sufferings and dissatisfaction they have, physical, mental, emotional, and transform into Maitreya. All living beings appear as Maitreya, all sound as mantra, and all thoughts are the universal love and wisdom. Then all beings in the aspect of Maitreya sink into you. This improves your concentration. You can also recite the mantra silently. First recite it with sound and without sound, and do mental recitation. Then the concentration on this, when your concentration is good, you can move to practice to other techniques. So basically, at that point, then you just focus on the mantra. Now, Om Maitre Sarvasiddhi Hum, Om Maitre Sarvasiddhi Hum is the mantra. If you have a mala, I don't have one right here right now, but you pull the beads towards your heart from in front of your chest. But when your arm gets tired, you can put it down on your knee or on your thigh or whatever you want, and such, and do the mantras. I always recommend very small beads in your mala, because if you have really big beads, it's heavy and it's a distraction. You want to something really small and simple that you can go through the mala with that. Lama Yeshe said something interesting in regards to mantra recitation. He said, in Tibet, we didn't have clocks. So we didn't know how long we've been meditating. We just we'd know we did 5 malas or 10 malas. Okay. So Lama Yeshe said, we have clocks now. So if it takes you 10 minutes to do a mala, or let's say this is a long mantra. I mean, for example, if you do the Vajrayogini mantra, it takes about 12 minutes to do 108 mantras of Vajrayogini in a recitation. Now that's doing it properly. That's not doing it really fast. Okay. So if you then did that, so 12 minutes, you could do 5 malas in an hour. So you don't even use your mala anymore. You just do the mantra, and after 1 hour you've done 5 malas. That was Lama Yeshe's comment. I still think it's a little dangerous, in the sense that you could fudge it or something. So better you have a mala, but I'm just sharing what Lama Yeshe did say. Okay, so pull the beads towards your heart with whatever finger you want, really doesn't matter. And you feel that you're pulling the energy of Maitreya Buddha, from the Pure Lands into your heart, all the blessings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And then from there, you can feel light goes out. It again makes offerings to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, or in contrast, purifies all sentient beings. And remember then, the places of Pure Land, all sentient beings are Maitreya. Well, think about that psychologically. We're all in the same team. We would all like to become enlightened. Even if we don't understand that, we'd like to have happiness, regular happiness and supreme happiness. So all sentient beings and you do have a connection, because we all want to be happy. It's just some of them don't understand the best way to be happy. Okay, so that's why you said that sense. We're all in the same team. We're all in this place is, beautiful place. It's the playground of enlightenment, like a basketball court or a football field or something. We're all on the same team. We're all on the playground of enlightenment, and the game we're playing is becoming enlightened. That sort of gives you a good psychological sense of connection with all sentient beings. And of course, we're all interdependent, we're all empty of self-existence and such like that. And then the great love and compassion is primarily empathy. That if you have a sense of empathy for another person, you feel for them. And then, if they're having a problem, well, you feel compassion, love, or you feel compassion. And if they're really happy and you love them, you feel happy for them. Like, wow, for example, let's say you have a son or a daughter who graduates from university. You're so happy for them. Maybe not for the debt they have, although it just got released, but I'm joking, sorry. Gotta have a sense of humor, yeah. Okay, anyway, but the point is that, when something beautiful happens to another person that you care for, you feel happy. That's love. Okay, and in this case, in thinking of all sentient beings as Maitreya Buddha, we're all in the same team. We would like to attain happiness and such. May all sentient beings have happiness because of happiness. May all sentient beings be free of suffering because of suffering. Okay, and then you recite the mantra. So offerings to all the Buddhas. Think of that your light rays touch Dalai Lama, Lamas Open Poche, and all the great gurus, and then all Buddhas. You never know. Maybe there's a Buddha living in your neighborhood. You just don't know, because we're incognito. Okay, so they all become aware of you. You send back waves of blessings. All sentient beings become Maitreya Buddha. Even if they don't know it, at least they're on the same team and touch. And then they all absorb into you, so you really feel connected with them all. And then, as the sadhana says, basically, then you would do it. When it refers to other techniques, so you could do the mantra out loud, you could do the mantra quietly and such. The other techniques are called abiding in sound or abiding in flame. And what they refer to as sort of completion stage practices for Kriya and Kara Yoga. So what you would do is, at a certain point when you've done that mantra enough and you have a really clear sense of being Maitreya Buddha, at least the identification, that then you would shift over and you go to the hum syllable, and it's either the sound hum or it's you could say the fire. You could say like the syllable has a little golden fire around it. You just focus on that in your heart chakra. Okay, and you just rest in that. And that's the completion state practices for Kriya and Kara Yoga Tantra. Okay, so that's the precisions for mantras. And then, well, in the sadhana, in the book of Lama Yeshe, the yoga method of Maitreya, he didn't give, he didn't give concluding prayers, but you could then just rest in being Maitreya Buddha, and then you do dedication prayer because you absorb all sentient beings, or you could do more elaborate things. Maybe there's a different sadhana which might have more commentary, but at this point, I think that's sort of gives us a basic idea of the practice. So there you have refuge bodhicitta, 7-limb prayer, which of course is missing one line. Please correct that if you want to. Okay. Then you have the Sobo Ashuddha Sarvadharma Sobo Ashuddha Home mantra. You go to the clear light, 30,000 feet spate in the sky. I am non-dual with that. And then you rest in that for a little while if you'd like. That's your self-liberation, your nirmanakaya, your personal your personal nirvana. Then having rested in that for a while, then you can allow, you're in a beautiful place. And there's Lamas open, Dalai Lama, and things walking around. It's a garden. Like I said, for me, it's Buddha Gaya under the Bodhi tree. Every time I go there, I just feel so happy. That's the sort of Pure Land you want, that it's a sacred place. Okay. And then in that, then you can have the lions, the throne, the lotus, and the moon cushion. And on top of that, then the little syllable comes down, or the little boom syllable comes down, and then it turns into, then it does the two purposes, offerings to Buddhas, purifying all sentient beings. All that light energy comes back into you, and then boom, one instant you become Maitreya Buddha. You have Om Hum. Then from your Hum in your heart, you send out lights, and you touch all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and Dalai Lamas and Lingam Poches and Lamas Open Poches. They all are conscious that you're meditating. They send back a wave of energy, absorbs into you. Ja Hum Bam Ho. And of course, you also feel all sentient beings are purified. And then you recite the mantra. And again, as I said, spreading light, making offerings or purifying sentient beings. Say it out loud, say it in quiet. Or you could do the abiding in fire, abiding in sound. And then you do dedication prayer. So there you go. We did it all. Okay. So that's the commentary. First off, okay, so we can open it, and is there any questions? John.
Hello, Jhampa. Is the only thing we have to do to be able to do this sadhana is to have an Anatara Yoga initiation? It doesn't matter which it is, mother or father, anything like that?
Okay, no, you do not need any initiation to do this practice. If you want to identify in the proper form of Tantra, you would need that level of initiation to do a full identification and full transformation and identification. In this case, we're talking of Kriya and Kara Tantra. It would be appropriate to get it's called a Jainam, or permission for this particular practice. I don't have it. I'm not sure Lama Zopa would give it. Maybe he would if you asked. But no, for this practice, you do not need to have an Anatara Yoga initiation. You could do everything as I explained it. But if you did have an Anatara Yoga initiation, you can have a little bit stronger sense of identification. But that'd be all, because Anatara Yoga initiations allow you to completely transform yourself into a Buddha form. We might say with proper certification. Okay, so that's the way I've understood it. One small side note, just in regards to all of you listening, there are a lot of different commentaries and such, and so it's not that one teacher is correct and another teacher is wrong. Rather, there are different lineages and different commentaries and such. So if you listen to a teacher, for example, on what I've said, and you think, oh, gee, that's not what I've heard before, depends what the lineage was. I mean, for example, Sarah J, Gadin, and Drebum all have different lineages, and they all have variants on the way you do various meditations. They're not all equal. So don't ever think that, oh, this Lama's right, that Lama's wrong, or this teacher's right, that teacher's wrong. As long as they've got the teaching and lineage, then they're teaching according to their lineage. Okay, unless something really seems obscure. Basically, the only thing I can say I changed here was I gave you the idea of you're immersed in the atmosphere and you're penetrated. I don't think I've ever had a Tibetan Lama teach me that, but I think for us with our education and our understanding, it's a really, really easy way to start to get a handle on I am not independently self-existent, I am interdependent. So that's about the only thing I could say that I taught, which was not strictly lineage. Okay, any other questions? Susan, Yeshi, Laura, Lily.
I have a question, Jhampa.
Okay.
The question of karma, I don't think I'm understanding it correctly, or anyway, this puzzles me about it. And it is Okay, so we read, if you do this or that action in your life, your karma will be, perhaps you'll be reborn into a certain situation of suffering, right? Okay, so that seems, well, it's very deterministic to me in this sense. People have suffered throughout human history from racism, and there are conspiracy theories about it. I mean, in the United States, we have the great replacement theory is affecting a lot of people. It's just extremely harmful. For instance, to Jewish people or, people of color. And so I'm trying to figure out, how does karma play into that? I cannot believe that people suffer in a certain situation based on their race or their ethnic background. It's because of their karma. They were born, because that's not a defective state to be born into in the first place, and yet racist people would interpret it and attack them for that. Do you understand? Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can comment to some extent. Yeah. Okay. Well, first off, like I think you said it perfectly. The human race, since it's been human race, has been rather violent and aggressive and horrible. I used to sort of be thinking how bad it was with the Germans in World War II and the concentration camps and stuff. But all you have to do is go back to, for example, Alexander the Great marched down to, was it Tyran or some city on the Mediterranean, captured the whole city, sold them all as slaves to Egypt. The whole city. So the thing is that it seems human beings have been rather atrocious to each other for centuries, and millennium possibly. So when I heard that, and when I thought about all of the great wars, and all the things that have happened and stuff, and even nowadays, if you take Russia and Ukraine, so incredibly crazy, that it sort of seems to be really part of, not everybody, but if there's certain amount of the human beings have a lot of violence in our constitution, our energy and stuff like that. So it's just the one thing to say, okay, let's sort of realize that, the world with human beings is sort of a pretty difficult place. Now, if we're lucky, we can be born in a good time when there's peace and such. They said, for example, when King Ashoka was the emperor of India, that at every crossroad, as you walked across India, there was a health center. Now, granted, it was Ayurvedic, but there's a health center. And a Chinese monk, and I don't remember his name, walked through India at that time and said, oh, the country was so peaceful. There was no bandits. There was security everywhere. Well, okay, so that's a nice time. And if you look back at, there's various times in North American history when things have been really good. So I'm generalizing at this point. Okay, now to come to specifics. Certain cultural groups do have certain cultural identifications. And so, again, I'm generalizing, but let's say, for example, the Jewish people are always known for dealing with money, and Christians, they weren't allowed to because Jesus had said that, handling money was not good. So the Jews took on that because they weren't Christian. And so they got identified that way, and then that identified them, and then they got persecuted. So just an example. Black people, well, they're black, and then there's white and green and blue people, all different colors. Again, that sort of identifies them. But if you took a rebirth as a black person, it could just be because, you have a lot of history in that or some sort of a connection with that. But then you're born into a place where there are all these other delusions about racism and stuff. So I don't, there's nothing predetermined about karma. Rather, that, if you have certain thoughts and feelings, you'll put yourself in a certain direction, and that will give you a rebirth with a certain group of people. I'll give you an example I like, which is when we die, we will be magnetized with the type of karma that we've accumulated. Okay, so you've been a generous person, a kind person, whatever thing, you'll be magnetized with that. Then as you fly around in the bardo as a spirit, you will be attracted magnetically, so to speak, to a set of parents which have similar sort of energy. The example I could give is if you were in a huge stadium of 10,000 people down on the play field, and you were to sort of suddenly there, you'd wander around until you found a group of people that you felt comfortable with. You'd avoid that side because they're maybe a bit rowdy. You come over here and don't like those ones. And these type of people here. Well, that's what it's like in the Bardo, generally speaking, that you basically look for people of a similar nature. So you could say that the people that take a black rebirth, they have some karma with black people. I mean, maybe it's a familiarity or whatever. So the point is, who takes a rebirth and what type of ethnic group or color group, that's individual karma, depends on what you've been doing and how you've been thinking and stuff like that. As for what happens to that particular group, yeah, I agree with you, there's atrocities, but it seems that throughout history there's been atrocities. So if we get caught up in that too much, we might lose our Dharma practice, where what's most important is just to be, we are compassionate, we are not racist, and maybe we can influence our friends not to be like that, and then we can slowly change the world, maybe a little bit. I'll give you an excellent example of that. Literally 100 years ago, a woman was the chattel of her husband by law, that a woman was basically owned by her husband. And actually, even in Australia, back until 1980, an Australian woman could not open a bank account without her husband's signature because of the law. Now, all that, and this mostly because of education, has changed. Women have equal rights to some, I mean, there's still some, sort of problems with that, but basically women have equal rights, they can vote, all those things. Also, women are not chattel anymore. They can, they're basically sentient beings. And now that's from education. So my only shot or sharing with you would be this, that education seems to be a really big component of the improvement of the human race. And learning that, for example, that women are equal to men, and we're all just human beings, education, that you should not beat them, that's something that's very current now. I mean, all that stuff, great. Then, all the other things where education helps us improve. So, yes, the world has been pretty darn atrocious. I absolutely agree. It still is atrocious in many ways. It's really sad. There's some really horrible karma being accumulated. But on the other side, education can be the big thing that helps change that. Okay, so that's my thoughts. Okay, Susan, I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, it does. So then when, for instance, if someone who says they believe Buddhism and they say, okay, you were born in Ukraine and you're being bombed and shelled every day by Russia, you must have done something really bad in a previous life. That is a fundamentalist interpretation of Buddhism. I mean, it's too literal. It just seems wrong,
Well, the Lama Yeshe said this. He said, if you took my family of 8 brothers and sisters, when the Chinese invaded, I and 3 of us left very easily. The other 4 of them, because there was 8 of them, I think, or something like this, the other ones could not leave Tibet. They said, no, we have to stay here. It's our house, it's our home. So they stayed, and then they got persecuted by the Chinese. And another couple, I don't know whatever happened with them. So even in the bombing of Ukraine, there would be a lot of individuality that's going on in there. Some people got hurt, some people didn't. Then if you go back to, okay, we can go back to World War II, we can go back to the Korean War, World War II, World War I. And prior to that, then, whatever other wars you want, all the horrible things that human beings do, there's massive amounts of places where karma could be accumulated. It doesn't have to be an immediate previous rebirth. So karma ripens when the circumstances are developed or are available. So you right now possibly could have all sorts of interesting karma, but you haven't got any circumstances for that karma to ripen. Now, in the Ukraine right now, the people that are getting hurt may not have karma immediately from previous rebirth, or maybe from 100 years ago when the Tsar of Russia was running around doing horrible stuff and they were in the military or whatever, who knows? But the point is, everybody does have an individual sort of thing in that. Some people might escape, other people won't, and things. So if there's no circumstances, karma can't ripen. Put a circumstance and suddenly karma ripens, or could ripen, if you have it. So again, I mean, yes, it's horrible what's happening in Ukraine. A lot of people have escaped. A lot of people haven't. A lot of people are fighting. A lot of karma is being accumulated. It's not predetermined. It's just this great big play field of karma, and depends on the circumstances, depends on who you are, how you respond, all sorts of stuff. It's a very, very dynamic thing. It's not static at all. At least that's my understanding. I can't say I'm the Buddha of karma, but I understand it as a good example is if you have 5 precepts, you just have changed your karma massively because you're not going to put yourself in certain circumstances. So the 5 precepts takes you out of certain circumstances that could ripen. So therefore 5 precepts are really good. Or other, like say, other things that you might, precepts that you might have. So again, it's a very dynamic thing. There's nothing static or predetermined about it.
Thank you, that helps.
Okay, we're down to the last, I say, okay, the window of opportunity is open, but it's going to close in 6 minutes. I'm not saying my teachings were so incredible, but anyway, we have an opportunity. So go for it if you have a question, please. Just one final comment for Susan in regards to her question. If you decide to be a stick of incense with a nice fragrance about yourself, even if you're in a room full of excrement, that doesn't diminish what you're doing, the perfume that you have. Yes, it gets affected by the other things around it, but if you are pure in the essence of your incense, the incense burning, you're changing it a little bit. So like that, we should try to see, I am interdependent with the universe. I don't believe in racism. So may I have the perfume of that? And how I express it, whether I make a big thing about it and write letters to senators and congressmen, or whether I just basically am a very peaceful person with lots of love in my heart for whoever it is, whatever race or color they are. Okay, that's the important thing to focus on, is who am I? And whatever you do with that feeling, whether you do something large or you do something just small, that's okay. That's good karma. That'll put you in circumstances where things can be good. But I'd say we have, well, I think that's the important thing to rest with, is that don't take up too much information from the outside world. It could overwhelm you. Just be a bit judicious about how much you let news get access to you and to affect you. Okay, and be a nice person. Okie dokie, guys. So Shayla, Los Andrew, everybody. Okay, so again, make your dedication not just a prayer, but a feeling. So some of you spent the whole day with me, and some of you spent a couple hours, whatever. So, and even me, I spent time with you. I dedicate all that towards becoming a more enlightened person. And that is my offering for the benefit of all. So I dedicate it, and then I make an offering of it. So with that thought in mind, we offer the mandala.
This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. May my venerable Lama's life be firm, his white divine actions spread in the 10 directions. May the torch of the teachings of Losang always remain, dispelling the darkness of all beings in the 3 realms. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamiratayami.
Okay, we'll do it in Tibetan because that's nicer, yeah. Gewadi Nyur Lama Shange Dru Kyurne Drowa Chikyang Maluba Ye Sala Gyowarsho Changchu Sem Chor Rinpoche Ma Ge Pa Nyang Ge Gurche Ye Wa Namba Me Pa Yong Kon Ne Kon Tu Pel Warsho. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Munyas victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers, honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every benefit and happiness in the world, the incomparable, kind, and Zengatsu, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Venerable One, to you, whose kindness exceeds that of all the conquerors, for all the wanderers of far-off places, especially the West, mindful of your loving concern for us, in intentionally descending again into the family of the far distant land, we make his request, O Lama, please live long. Beloved teacher, leading your students towards wisdom and compassion, explaining through exacting discernment the steps of the graduated path, you are the unequal guide. Please live long and stable life. Good, guys. Well, nice to meet you all in New Mexico and all other places around the world. So good. Thank you for the invitation, Losa and Dondru. Very kind of you. And thank you, Shayla, for mastering the Zoom. That's it. So.
Thank you. Please come back soon.